Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
Hello, welcome in. It is season 1 of the Bmore Baseball Podcast. I'm Jerry Coleman. He's, of course, the Orioles Hall of Famer, the 14-year MLB veteran. He's Mike Bordick. We're up with a brand new content every week, folks, on our podcast, on X, on Instagram, on Facebook. Find us now at the Bmore Ball Pod. The Bmore Ball Pod is where you can find us also on YouTube. And when you follow us, you qualify for a $50 gift card for free food from Lido Pizza. That's a great deal. Today, we have reached episode number 4, Bordy. We'll be joined by a Major League manager for a second straight week. This one's a Hall of Famer, Tony La Russa, with an exclusive interview talking about his more than 3 decades in Major League Baseball, which includes 3 World Series victories. Mike and I will also discuss how the Orioles will approach the return of Gunnar Henderson. Will he make it in time for opening day? I'll recap my thrilling trip to Sarasota and all the fun and debauchery that took place down there, also covering some baseball. And speaking of Sarasota, that's where the doc is this week, our What's Up Doc segment with Dr. Michael Jacobs, former Orioles team doctor. We'll talk about the return of Jorge Mateo. We welcome in our featured guest. He is, of course, as always, sponsored by our friends over at Pappas Seafood. You can see over my shoulder there. They have delivered here to Sarasota, folks, from crab cakes to seafood classics. They'll deliver straight to your door, whether you're in Sarasota or somewhere else in the U.S., 4 locations in the Baltimore area, plus nationwide shipping. Order today simply by going to pappascrabcakes.com. That's pappascrabcakes.com. That shoulder. We bring in Hall of Fame manager Tony La Russa joining us now. Tony, appreciate you taking the time and joining us here on the podcast. I did want to ask you, you've been out of the game for a little bit. You're around baseball right now. How much are you following the game since retirement?
Well, I never did retire yet. Since the day I signed at 17, I've always done something. Even when I retired as a manager, I was 10 years, worked for the commissioner's office. Then I did some work in the front office with the Diamondbacks in Boston. And then 21, as you know, I think you know, Mr. Ryan sort of asked me to come back and manage. And we had a good first year. We won the division in 21. In 22, I got some cancer, so I was out for a year and a half. And now I'm advising the White Sox, which means you suggest, persuade, you got no thumb.
Tony, thank you so much, obviously, for coming on the show. You know I love you. My first manager, and I don't think anybody can have a better manager than you. I think if you would have been my manager throughout my career, who knows what I've been able to do. You mentioned you starting your career, way back in the early 60s when you were 17 years old. I have one question. If you hadn't hurt your shoulder, would you have gotten more hits than me in the big leagues?
Would I have gotten more hits than what?
Than me in the big leagues.
Well, the worst thing you can do is to come across egotistically, like you usually featured. I mean, Bordick was the kind of guy that wondered with a lineup that had McGuire and Canseco, how come I'm not hitting fourth? So yeah. Here's what I do know. I signed out of high school at 17, and I had a real cannon. And in my 3rd year, I tore the tendon in my right shoulder. In those days, they put your arm in a sling. Right. And that was it. To this day, if you touch it, I've got, I get painful and scar tissue. So I became kind of a flipping sidearm second baseman. I was a decent AAA player. I don't think I'd ever been good enough. And actually, it isn't even hard to admit because I'm a Mike Bordick's fan club. He was a much better player than I ever would have been.
I don't know about that, Skip. Listen, at 17 years old, man, you grew up with Lou Piniella. And I think what's the coolest thing in the world, right? So you guys go through your thing as young players. You both end up making it as managers and players in the major leagues. When I came into the big leagues, it was 1990. 1990, there were a couple things going on. The A's trying to get back into the World Series, but you met with the Cincinnati Reds in 1990, and Lou Piniella was the manager. What was that like to go against your childhood competitor?
Well, it's typical Bordick move, put me in a bad mood right at the beginning. Instead of talking about 89 when we won. No, but, that brings up a subject. We were in the World Series 3 straight years, 88, 89, 90. And we had the best club 3 times, not to take away from the Dodgers or the Reds, but, we lost the first one in 5 games and got swept by the Reds. I really believe that I should have done a better job of preparing that team because it had so much talent, and we played the game right. It haunts me, and every time I say Lou, he shows me the ring, and I can't show it.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm sorry to bring up that bad memory. It was an incredible experience for me because obviously you being the manager, and I just remember some amazing speeches. I remember some great coaches. One of your coaches, though, was with you your whole career, and Dave Duncan being that guy. And I just loved your chemistry and stuff and how you work together. Tell me this, did you actually hand the reins over to him to run the pitching staff, or did you have a lot of input along the way?
That's really a great question because just to back up a historic fact, I signed in 1962 with the Kansas City A's. Dunk signed in 63 with the A's, and Rene Latchman signed in 64. So all the time that I was growing up in the minor leagues, Dunk or Latch were my catchers.
Oh.
And then Dunk had a 10-year playing career, always very brilliant as a catcher. And the Indians gave him his first chance as a coach. So by the time we got together, we were together 29 years. And not to disrespect anybody else, but Dave Duncan's the greatest pitching coach of all time. And he checked every box. Not only that, he had this special aptitude to prepare catchers. He got Terry Steinbeck, a third baseman, to become an all-star catcher.
Yeah.
He went on with his whole career. He worked the catchers so they could run the pitching staff. The one point that Dave would admit, and I talked to Dave yesterday morning, we talk all the time. Dave loved to coach the pitchers and the catchers. What he didn't want to do is be a decision maker about, so we got together by setting a rotation. The day of the game, we would talk about who was hot in the pen. But he was so wrapped up in the guy that was throwing, he didn't want to be. In fact, some people try to lure him away by wanting to give him more responsibility. The overall picture of how the game was going and who you were worried about, which is more a manager's responsibility. So I made all the changes. I certainly would ask, hey, Dave, I think he's starting to lose it. But Dunk wanted to get guys ready to pitch and catch and watch them during the game, and he let me do the managing.
Pretty amazing. Yeah, it was a great team. You had great coaches. I loved Latch. He always walked around the clubhouse saying, play the game hard, play the game right. And nobody made more of an impact on me about the importance of making an out and out than Rene Latchman. He was awesome. I love that whole coaching staff. I do have a question, though, I guess just about how you were able to manage so many incredible superstars. Those teams that came together with Oakland just blew me away. And it continued when you went on to St. Louis with a couple World Series championships there. How did you get them all on the same page? That kind of makes me wonder how managers like you, Joe Torre, can do that and have such great success.
I would begin by saying anything that you're going to hear me say today, Mike, and the folks will hear me say, I learned from somebody. I didn't innovate anything. I was a real good student, and I got that chance as a player coach at AAA. But mostly when I got to the big leagues, you had Weaver, Sparky, Earl, Gene Mauch, Chuck Tanner, and you could ask. Dick Williams was great. You could ask them, and they would give you the baseball Bible. So one of the things that I learned, and I'll give you one more because I played for him in the minor leagues, and he was really important to Latch and to myself. John McNamara, who later on managed Boston and Cincinnati. Yeah. And he had a way of showing that he cared about the players. So our basic starting point every year with our coaching staff was to show the players, working from zero, that we wanted to earn their respect and their trust and we want to show them we cared about them, not just professionally and personally. So what happens when you do that religiously, man, you build a relationship. And that's what transpired with some of those big stars. But you also had, here's the other important point, you also had to have guys in the clubhouse that ran that clubhouse. And you'll know this as much as anybody else. You had Carney Lancer sitting in there.
Yeah.
So I don't care if Canseco or McGuire came in there, all puffing full of piss and vinegar. Carney would sit them straight and say, hey, this is not what we do here.
He controlled that clubhouse for sure.
More of the Bmore Baseball podcast coming right up. At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com.
There are a lot of myths out there about how the Maryland lottery works. Playing the lottery responsibly means knowing what's true and what's not. The facts are, all games have similar odds. You should never try to recover losses by taking more risks. And you shouldn't play the lottery when you're feeling stressed. But the biggest fact is, you should always play responsibly. Learn more facts and myths at mdlottery.com, and please play responsibly.
The Bmore Baseball podcast welcomes Relief Shop. Shop, Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu, located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week, only at Relief Shop. It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer, or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone, exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955, proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles. Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time. And now, back to the Bmore Baseball Podcast.
Hey, I got one more question for you here, Tony. So, the Oakland A's, they donned Jose Canseco Rookie of the Year, Mark McGuire Rookie of the Year, and then Walt Weiss. And then they went on a nice little run, dynasty, I thought. The Baltimore Orioles, I'm not sure if you follow them, but Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, and Colton Cowser have all now been, well, Gunnar won the Rookie of the Year, but the other two, Adley and Colton, finished second. So a nice group of young players. Have you followed this young team, and what do you project out of this Orioles team?
It's a great question because the year I came back was 2021, and we swept the Orioles 3 at home and 3 in Baltimore. And I really respect their manager, Freddie Gonzalez, and they competed their butt off, but they were short in different executions. The next year, they brought in some good-looking kids, and they beat us in the series, and that was the year towards the end of the year, I had to go in the hospital. But the point was, it was a different Orioles-looking team. And then we all know what happened in 23, 24, going at 25. They had taken their young talent and mixed it in with veterans. Their hitters are all very hitterish at the plate. They play good defense. They remind me, by the way, when I started, and a lot of us started, Latch and all of us, we got to the big leagues, our model was the Baltimore Orioles. They were the most fundamentally sound team.
Yeah.
So to see those guys, the Orioles now, that's who we're, like the White Sox are struggling. And a lot of the way we play the game, we want it to look like what Baltimore is doing now. So I watch them very closely. Like I said, Leland and I are still the best of friends, and we're big fans of the manager and the coaching staff. And so whenever you see excellence, whether it's a player, a team, whatever league, you admire, respect it, and you follow it. And that's what you're doing now with the Orioles.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because for the kids, Tony, I mean, here's some perspective. In 1983, you were manager of the year with the White Sox. That was also the last year the Orioles won the World Series. You're aware because they beat your White Sox in the American League Championship Series. Sorry to bring up the memory. A lot of time has passed, and you've won only 3 World Series since then. Baltimore doesn't have one, but I guess you're still having nightmares maybe about Tito Landrum and that whole encounter?
No, I have nightmares about Jerry Dubzinski. So it was 0-0 in the 7th. We got first and second with nobody out. No, first base with nobody out. I played hit and run with Vance Law. He hits the bullets. So first and second, Dubzinski, who's the best bunter on the team, bunts it in front of the plate. So the catcher forces the guy at third. The next guy gets a base hit, and we can't score the run from second. And not only then Dubzinski overruns the base and gets caught in the rundown. So way before Tito or Terry, Landrum, Jerry Dubzinski had to move. The death threats in Chicago got him moving out of the neighborhood.
Oh my gosh! Hey, Skip.
Wow.
But something, I'm gonna make sure that Baltimore team. We played good. But they had Eddie and Cal. I mean, they were so tough, so well balanced, pitching, defense. Like I say, they Earl had just left, but they had Altobelli. So Cal's father was coaching. I mean, whether it was back in the '80s or now, you respect excellence, and the Orioles have had a history of it.
Yeah, they definitely had that Oriole way, man, and they're trying to rebuild that again, playing the game hard and playing the game right. Hey, Skip, what do you think about some of the new rule changes in the game? I'm a little blown away by the bases being a little bit bigger, but as far as like the speed up rules and things like that, and you've kind of evolved through the game. Do you appreciate these new rules and think it's intriguing to younger fans?
Yes and no. When I retired in 11, I worked at the commissioner's office for 3 years, and then I went with the Diamondbacks. So I had my chance. We're not concerned about the club I was with, but to look at the game from a broader perspective. And there was way too much dead time. The game's into 3 hours, but there's so much time where nothing was really happening. So there towards the end, they put the pitch clock in the minor leagues, and I was able to see it. And it was a game changer. I think it's a terrific move. I was never one to believe that the severe shifts were good for our game. You have the second baseman playing short right. So I like to go back to where, you want to play a guy to pull, you shade him, kind of behind the bag, but you got to have a step on the side. I think they're making the running game a little too accessible, the big bag. I'm not a big fan of that, but probably the biggest disagreement you get among a bunch of old timers like Leland and Tony and Torrey, the extra inning rule. When you work in an organization and you get an extra inning game that goes well into 12, 13, 14 innings, it is so disruptive to the entire organization. You waste a lot of pitching. The next day you're disrupting the minor league. So I personally like the runner at second during the regular season because the fans get excited. Hey, we're going to have a conclusion now, and you get a chance to see the different strategy. I think it's fascinating. Most of my buddies would like to see it happen like Torrey and Leland, maybe in the 12th inning, give a regular baseball 10 or 11.
I like that.
So they like it. I personally get excited because I think there's a lot of strategy depending on if you like your bullpen, whether you want to play for a run, and anytime you can second guess the manager, that's half the fun.
I can understand that perspective for sure. Tony, it's well known that you were friends with the late, great Bobby Knight and Bill Parcells. I'm just wondering how you formed those relationships.
Man, I tell you, I kind of mentioned earlier about the mentoring stuff, and I'm very careful to repeat. You'll think I innovated. I just learned and maybe tweaked it here or there. But last night I had dinner. Stu was at dinner, your buddy, and a couple of guys told me, and we were talking about it. And I was around so long that you end up meeting coaches in the different areas. So in spring training, for example, with the Cardinals, it turns out a lot of NFL guys are there during their offseason. So typically you'd have a game where Belichick, Parcells, and Ron Wolf are on the bench watching us play. And so was John Havlicek. So when you start getting around these guys, you end up talking about what's different and what's the same about our sport, especially with leadership. And it's just amazing how often the attention to detail, how you really want to create relationships that are personal and professional, how you really want to talk, you're responsible for the effort. If a guy's loafing, response as the coaching staff and the manager. The execution, man, this is the big leagues. You're supposed to be able to make a pitch, make a play, make an at-bat. So a lot of that stuff created, like even now, Bill is at North Carolina. The White Sox have 3 teams in minor leagues. And I called him. I said, if I come watch our Carolina team at night, can I come watch a practice? And he says, yeah, sure, you're welcome. And we always learn from each other. I'll give you one more. This is one of my favorite drops, because it's so nice to talk about. I was, with the Oakland Club, as you know, we lived in the Bay Area and still do. For 8 years, during the off season, I would go to dinner 4 times, twice with one coach and twice with another that were retired, Bill Walsh and John Madden. Now, you think about going to lunch with those 2 guys. I took my notepad. There wasn't one time that I didn't have 3 or 4 things that could help make me a better manager.
Yeah, and you used them, Tony. Listen, your speeches, in my opinion, were just as remarkable and awe-spoken as I've ever heard. And I know I'm going to go back to a bad time, I guess, but I remember in Cincinnati being down 3-0, and I was like, what could Tony La Russa possibly say to this group of players? And I'm talking Willie Randolph was on that team, Canseco, McGuire, you go down the list, Eckersley, all the great Oakland A's players. And La Russa steps up in front of all these guys, backs against the wall, and he says, we come back. This is what legends are made of. You will never be forgotten. Now, we ended up losing that game, but the speech in and of itself, I was ready to run through a wall. I know that, and I know everybody in that room just loved how you motivated players, and those speeches were just incredible.
Well, you learn one thing's very important, man. You can't talk too long, because it's a long season. Say something 10 or 15 minutes if you're going to have a meeting. Make sure you don't waste your time. Prepare for them. But I'm like, have I got 5 minutes to explain about 1990? Because this came up last night with Stu and Tommy. You're taught as a manager, you have your shot. During the season, you don't have too many team meetings. But playoffs, you always had something to start with. And this is a true story. It's got a heck of a kick to it. We were getting ready. We were flying from Oakland to Cincinnati. We had just, if you remember, Mike, we won 103 games. We swept Boston. And while we were flying, I'm trying to think of my meeting. We always met on the off day before game 1. And, anyway, I was, I don't know. I can't. But anyway, I had my meeting. And when you get to know the guys, I swear on my children, you can read that you don't really have them. I'm not saying anything that's, getting the guys excited. And I thought, man, so we cut it short. We walked out on the field. The Reds are taking credit. And, we had this, Dave Parker was on that team. Canseco, McGuire, Carney, Dave Henderson, all the big guys, and they're yapping and yapping. And I noticed that the Reds, Barry Larkin, those guys, hey, how are you doing? And they're working their ass off with their batting practice. That night, I kid you not, I was having dinner with my wife, our daughters, and my wife's parents. And my wife, a couple of times, because I usually, would shut it off and pay attention, she knew I was bothered. And she said, what's going on? I said, man, the meeting didn't work. I'm really concerned the way we walked out there like we own the place, and we're taking things for granted, right? Now, here's the punch. I was thinking about having a meeting the next day, which kind of looked panicky to me, but I didn't have anything to say.
Oh.
Well, history is, we lost the first game. Second game, Canseco didn't make the play. The ball. So we got swept. And for years, I've been haunted. Not that the Reds couldn't have beat us, but you get swept with a team like ours. It's embarrassing. I really felt I let something down, but I had no clue. And here's this beautiful anecdote. There's a great friend of mine named Dick Strong And he has introduced me to more people besides sports. I can't tell you how good he is. He had a 70th birthday, and he had a bunch of his friends come to the birthday, including Walt Jocketty and myself. During the break, people would talk about him, and they were in the afternoon, and we had a party at night. During the lunch, I'm sitting at the table, Walt and I, with Jerry Kramer and Willie Davis. Well, naturally, I get them talking about Lombardi, right? And they're telling great Lombardis. And all of a sudden, right at the end, they said this, and I could strangle myself. They said they had won 2 NFLs, and in the camp, before they started training for that third year, Lombardi jumped up there with his full exuberance and get my attention, fellas. He says, look, this is our chance to be historic. And we're going to approach this thing every practice. And they did, right? When I heard that, I wanted to stab myself. That's all I would have had to do at that meeting was to challenge that great team of talent. Look, we just won the Earthquake Series. We got a chance to be historic, repeat. And I choked. And I never thought about it until 15 years later. And I'm telling it to you now, and I want to punch myself.
Well, it still worked out for you for a Hall of Fame career. I mean, how many baseball managers have law degrees, Tony? And was that ever helpful as a manager, having that law degree?
Well, I think it helps because you learn how to, the value of preparation, attention to detail. But as I was reminded, like Earl and Spark, they sold cars or whatever they did. I mean, what helps you? Here's my favorite. I had 2 years, 83, 84, 85 with the great Tom Seaver. And totally in love with him, so smart, taught me so much about handling pitching along with Dunk. And when I got in the Hall of Fame, he called me oh, wait a minute, I always get backpack Hall of Famer, which means I was on the backs of great teams. So you get to the Hall of Fame, the manager and the coaches, we do something to help you compete. But the reason I got there, I was with 3 outstanding organizations, the White Sox, the A's, and the Cardinals, totally connected throughout top player development, scouting, and we have always had players, and we went about it with what I talked to you before. Respect, trusting, caring, clubhouse leadership. We had guys with, I remember my first club in '83, Luzinski and Jerry Kuzman and Carl Fisk. They loved our coaching staff. They said, look, we'll take care of all the problems. If something comes up that you hear about, just give us a chance, we'll take care of it. If we can't, then the coaches take care of it. And a lot of stuff happened in that clubhouse, as you know, Mike, between Carney and Hindu and Stu and Bobby Wells. It never got to us.
Man, oh man, incredible leaders. You mentioned a couple of my favorite of all time that I think about almost daily. And I want to mention a player that really impacted me and I think the game that unfortunately recently passed away, and that of Rickey Henderson. Do you have any thoughts on Rickey?
Yeah, just, 2 or 3 weeks before that, a bunch of us, we were towards the end of the Oakland days, and we all saw Rickey, and all of us said the same thing, man, he looks like he could play tomorrow. So we were totally stunned. We actually, as you know, because you allowed me to have my dog, our family started this foundation in 1991, and we still do that show. So this time, instead of music, we had a panel with A's Hall of Famer where Rickey was supposed to come. Obviously, he passed away, so we did a tribute to him, but we had Canseco, Stu, and Eck, and they talked about Rickey. And here's the point that I'd like to make 3 times I've done it. I always thought Rickey was treated very unfairly by the press. And you'll know this. Rickey is one of the most popular teammates who's truly a star. He was always in the middle of the stuff happening in the clubhouse, back of the plane, during the bus. He loved his teammates. He never played the superstar role. The other thing I say, when you have the generations, Rickey's in that group of all-timers. It doesn't matter generation. He's a Hall of Famer. And I managed against him for 10 years. And you tried to stop him. But we were to get a 5. And I saw how many times he was the marked man. and sometimes it included taking cheap shots at them, which that's not my favorite thing to do, to allow. And my quote that actually cost him, I saw it mentioned with Ricky: teams, you couldn't scare them and you couldn't stop them. And he was a great teammate, beloved, and so unfair. He had so much left to enjoy, but what can I say? I'll tell you what. I'll tell you one more thing about the coaches. We would have these dinners in spring training because, like I said, all those guys were there. And Dick Strong introduced me to General Hal Moore. If you watch We Were Soldiers with Mel Gibson, that's the famous general. He came for 8 years. He came to spring training, talked to the troops, he called them. We had a dinner one time. He obviously West Point. Across from General Moore was Bill Parcells, who coached Army football, Bob Knight, who coached Army basketball, Bill Belichick, whose father was with the Naval Academy, and Tom Crean, the Marquette coach, and Ron Wolf. And if you could have seen, especially those, the two Bills and Ron, but Coach Knight, he liked to fill a room. If you could have seen the amount of respect that they gave to Hal Moore, and he had this thing, where there's always something you can do, and he said 3 strikes you're not out, and it was, when you talk to me, man, everything I've got is a memory of somebody that taught me something that we have used forever, and I'm very, very fortunate. And then I had players like Mike Bordick, who Tommy Reynolds, when you play for the minor leagues, saw me in spring training, says, Skipper, this guy will be a key part of championship teams. And he called that 2 years before you were up there.
What's the history, though, between your dog and Mike Bordick and your love for animals?
Well, we were in, this is all part of it. In those days, the A's contracted with Scottsdale Community College to have a complex where they had a quad and a couple little fields. And we were on the Pima Indians property. So sure enough, we had this little locker room. Mike will tell you, had all these great stars, these little locker room, with all these players, right? Well, one day I just had the football coach let me have the office so we could have our meeting in the afternoon. And one of our equipment guys, Mike Taublin, has this little black terrier lab mix with he's like, I don't know, he's probably 3 months old or something, with these beautiful eyes. And he brought him into me because he knows we're animal guys. He says, hey, he just walked in the door. So I said, well, oh man, just take him to the vet. The vet, he has some ticks and flea, but he's healthy as he can be. So we already have ours. And I said, I got to find a home for him. So for several days, Mike was actually interested, but he and his beautiful wife were pregnant with their first kid. And right there at the end, they decided that, wait a minute, it's just not a time to bring in a dog. Well, that dog became my boy. Reservation means Rez is his nickname.
Rez, yeah.
And I used to go around my arm around just reminding how much I loved him.
That's awesome.
And for that, Michael always there are a lot of reasons, but he's one of my favorite players.
Last thing I wanted to ask you is about, and you've said some things about it, but the Athletics have finally left Oakland. They're playing in a minor league ballpark in Sacramento until Vegas is ready. How are you dealing with it all, Tony? You still live in the area.
Well, it's a very ticklish. I really don't. The Oakland club had tremendous success. Lots of loyal fans. Economically, I think there was a time maybe they should have moved to San Jose and didn't. But to leave Oakland, it's created a big sadness in the area. Going to Sacramento is just I guess a couple of years stop before they go to Vegas. So, Oakland A's is Oakland A's, and the history deserved better. But sometimes things happen, and that's the way you just got to make the adjustment.
Well, Tony, we really appreciate your time. I mean, well said. You're out there at a spring training game, sitting in a golf cart, spending a half hour with us, and we really are grateful for you taking the time. And I know it was mostly for Mike Bordick.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tony. I love you, man. I love
Yeah,
you.
it's
Thanks
great
for all
talking
you've
to you.
done.
Like talking to the fans, and Mike just said the right word, man. Our team relationships were full of love, and they still exist, man. So he can ask me to do anything he wants, except give Rez back. All
All
right.
right, we'll send you
Talk to
some
you guys.
crab cakes. We'll send you some
All right.
crab cakes from Pappas, Tony. Thanks, and be well.
All right, man. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
That was pretty awesome, Bordy.
That was great, man. He's so awesome. He sounded great, right?
Yep. Sounded
Yeah.
great, looked great, working his own camera for those watching at home in a golf cart out there in Arizona.
Yeah. I love Tony, man. And, we could listen to him for hours. I could anyway. I mean, he's got all the stories. He's learned from the greatest ever, and not just in baseball, but you heard it, around the world, greatest coaches, greatest minds. And he was able to give it to a lot of us as players. And I'll forever love him for it and respect him for all he's done for this great game.
Well, our first Hall of Famer of 2025, hopefully not our last.
Take a swing at a healthier mouth and a better-looking smile with my dental team at Catonsville Dental Care. Catonsville Dental Care is a winning team of caring dental professionals who treat you like family. You will love their clean, friendly office, where your comfort and care are their top priorities. Catonsville Dental Care has more than 2,000 five-star Google reviews and received many awards, such as Top Dentist and Top Workplace. Catonsville Dental Care accepts most insurances and offers convenient hours, before or after work, and some Saturdays, too. Mention the Jerry Special for your $149 new patient visit, or receive $500 off your Invisalign treatment. So get off the bench. Call Catonsville Dental Care today. At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com.
There are a lot of myths out there about how the Maryland lottery works. Playing the lottery responsibly means knowing what's true and what's not. The facts are, all games have similar odds. You should never try to recover losses by taking more risks. And you shouldn't play the lottery when you're feeling stressed. But the biggest fact is, you should always play responsibly. Learn more facts and myths at mdlottery.com, and please play responsibly.
The Bmore Baseball Podcast welcomes Relief Shop. Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu, located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week. Only at Relief Shop. It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer, or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone, exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955, proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles. Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
Love the culture of Charm City? The Baltimore Chamber Orchestra is performing 2 extraordinary concerts at Goucher College on Sunday, March 9th and Sunday, May 11th. Picture it. The strings strike the first chord like a leadoff hitter, setting the concert's tone, followed by colorful winds, powerful brass, and explosive percussion, like a crowd roaring to their feet during a home run. Discover Baltimore's second orchestra and experience the unforgettable magic of classically captivating live music. Get your tickets now at thebco.org.
Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for Bet Parks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over October only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. At Heller Coates, we ensure peace of mind. Our mission, to educate, design, and protect, ensuring that you get the right insurance at the right price. Whether it's home and auto, life, disability, long-term care, or employee benefits, our deep understanding of personal and business life cycles allows us to tailor solutions just for you. We specialize in strategic insurance planning for those who value protection. Ready to take the next step? Get in touch for a no-obligation 360 policy review at insurance@hellercoates.com.
All right, on to For the Birds, sponsored by our friends over at the Maryland Lottery. Playing the Maryland Lottery responsibly means knowing what's true and what's not about your favorite games. Learn the facts and myths at marylandlottery.com. That's mdlottery.com, mdlottery.com, and please play responsibly, folks. Mike, what's the starting rotation going to look like now that we know that Zach Elfin has been named the starter? You announced that, of course, before Brandon Hyde last week on the podcast. I'm wondering where Tomoyuki, and I worked on that all week, Sagano fits in. I mean, this guy has had 4 starts here. He has struck out 11. He hasn't allowed a run in his first 4 major league starts. A very pleasant surprise for the 35-year-old Japanese import.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. And, there aren't many that come from Japan as far as pitchers go that don't have a lot of success. I mean, he is a highly touted arm that is one of the best and had been one of the best in Japan for years. 2-time Cy Young Award winner over there. They don't call it the Cy Young Award. And 2-time MVP in his division. So this guy's got quality stuff. His fastball's diminished a little bit, but he's got 6 pitches. And this is what I'm so intrigued about and why I think he should be at the top. Maybe number 2. He knows how to command all of his pitches. And we don't see that nowadays. We see max effort guys that are just humping up on every fastball they have, trying to max effort their spin on the slider. He is all about command and location. And I think he's going to carve up a lot of major league hitters. He showed that in the World Baseball Classic. He struck out 6 guys. He got Arenado 3 times. He struck out our guy Adam Jones once. He just knows how to pitch. So I think this could be the start of maybe a trend in Major League Baseball. Doesn't throw 98, throws 90 to 92, but knows how to locate and actually pitch with 3 or 4 different pitches.
Well, he's fitting in nicely in this Orioles rotation, which also includes, as you mentioned, Charlie Morton and Dean Kramer. And then there's a battle for the 5th spot between Albert Suarez and Cade Povich, with so many guys right now injured, including Bradish and Rodriguez.
Yeah, I'm on the Cade Povich side right now. I think Suarez offers so much versatility. Shoot, if he needs to slide back in the rotation, he can. But we need innings out of the bullpen. He's a perfect long man coming out of the pen. His earned run average is a little bit better coming out of the pen, almost a full run better. So he's comfortable out there. The Orioles don't have a starting left-handed pitcher. It would be nice to mix things up a little bit. Maybe these guys can complement themselves. Povich finished really strong. That little boost of confidence he got in September should bode well for him having a better year this year. It's just finding that consistency and trusting that he can pound the strike zone.
As far as the infield goes, it's pretty much set, except at shortstop right now. Gunnar Henderson, I don't know if he's going to be ready for opening day, Bordy. It seems like time is not on his side. He's only had 6 at-bats in the spring before hurting himself there in late February, the 27th. Jorge Mateo has returned. We'll talk with the doc more about that. But is Gunnar going to make it back in time? And if so, I mean, how much can you utilize him with such a limited spring training?
Man, oh man! Listen, Gunner's shooting for that opening day spot. He said he's going to be in uniform, and yeah, he might be in uniform, but I just don't see him playing right now. Listen, he's a young guy. He heals fast. He just doesn't have the at bats, the timing. It'd be too bad if he got off to a real slow start, and then who knows, maybe overcompensated. And you worry about injuries on guys if they come back a little too soon, right? And that's something I think the Orioles are generally concerned about. So maybe an extra week, maybe a week and a half to get him back into the starting lineup. I think the biggest question is who's going to play shortstop. Yeah. My opinion is not to put Holiday there. Keep him at second, keep Westberg at third, and let Soto play short or Vasquez until Gunnar comes back. The last thing you want to do is disrupt 3 positions just because you're missing one. I think the backup infield can be fine. They might not produce with the bat like a Gunnar Henderson does, but it's about catching the ball and being strong up the middle.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Jackson Holiday and maybe shifting them over there. They've tried him out there, but you're right about the disruption part and how that may affect things going forward in terms of chemistry.
Well, for sure. I mean, because if you put Holiday there, then the thought process is, okay, Westberg then would go to second base and Urias over to third base, where Urias might be a little bit better at third. What's wrong with Urias filling in at shortstop as well? I mean, he's kind of a super utility guy. Brandon Hyde trusts him about as much as anybody on the infield, or he wouldn't even be on this team right now. So I think Urias still adds great value, and he could potentially, add some pop with the bat. He's shown sparks of power as well, especially with that left field wall coming in a little bit.
No doubt about that. All right, let's get in the spaceship and go beyond Baltimore. It's brought to you by Relief Shop Baltimore, Maryland's best adult use and medical cannabis dispensary, with 700 plus unique menu items and home delivery always available for medical patients, thanks to Relief Shop. One of the best things this podcast provides, Bordy, in my opinion, is access. And I got a chance to spend time around the Orioles the last 10 days down in Sarasota during my annual pilgrimage. And I always say, and you say, never read too much into spring training. It's much like NFL training camp, where guys just become heroes during May and June and July and don't produce when it really matters. Heck, in baseball, I think a lot of people out there don't even realize most of the players don't even stick around for the full 9 innings of these spring training games. I mean, if you walk by the Orioles parking lot during the game, you'll see a bevy of fans waiting for autographs. And you're wondering, why are they waiting for autographs? Well, it's because the players are leaving in the 3rd through 5th innings, if not earlier, Bordy.
Yeah, guys go in and get their work done. And there's some concern about that. And I think historically, players might not leave the complex back when I played, but they certainly left the dugout because there's so many guys coming to spring training. So nowadays in spring training, it's just about get your work in, be a pro about it. The manager trusts you to leave early. Just, make sure you take care of yourself if indeed you do have to leave early. My problem is that when it's time to push the button to go, which I think has to be today or about a week ago, as far as that mental intensity, there has to be that kind of motivation in front of these guys, because if they start it on the first day, opening day, it's too late. So mentally, you have to gear yourself up. You've had to already throw your helmet and bat. You've had to feel that frustration that the game brings and actually get into the grind, so you're already a step ahead of the game and you're not trying to play catch up come opening day.
Yeah, in other words, make sure you get your uniform, Doherty, at least once or twice during spring training before you hit the golf course.
Yeah.
All right. The Orioles facility, though, as you know, is top notch. It's in a great location. You train both in Sarasota and Fort Lauderdale, worlds apart in many different ways. One town closes down at 9:00. The other is South Florida. But I recall seeing the Reds play back in Sarasota before the Orioles moved there. Thankfully, my parents had the foresight to move to Sarasota before the Orioles. So you get a lot going on down there, including the beaches and the sun. But it's all about business. And again, reading too much into spring training is a mistake for a lot of people, and they tend to do that.
Yeah, no, I think so. And I think a lot of people, all of a sudden, they make these predictions coming out of spring training, and it never, ever works like that. Listen, I witnessed Bob Welch come out of spring training. I think it was 92 or 93, and he had maybe an earned run average of 25, and he ended up winning 27 games that year. So, especially big league guys, they know how to get their work in. They have routines, they have structure to their day, and they're pros. So they understand what it takes, and they certainly don't want to burn out in spring training. And I think managers have learned along the way, when you push guys on road trips, when you pull them back, keep them back to get good work in. Brandon's really good about that. And like I said, I think now is the time that the intensity starts to ratchet up a little bit. You might hear some different verbiage about the intensity of games. Come on, time to focus now. Let's go. Play the game hard, play the game right. Just things to get them ready for the start of this 162 game grind.
And the season has already begun. They have started in Japan. It seems like earlier and earlier we get going here as the spring training games start for most teams outside of Japan, those teams playing there in late February. All right, let's head down to Sarasota, where I just was. And now let's bring in the doc. It's our What's Up Doc segment. What's Up Doc is sponsored by the Baltimore Chamber Orchestra. Hear Baltimore's second orchestra perform at 3 p.m. Sunday, May 11th at Goucher College. Visit thebco.org to buy tickets and learn more. Thebco.org is the place to be, and the place to be right now is in Sarasota, where Dr. Michael Jacobs, former Orioles team doctor, is, and he joins us every week. Doc, hopefully you're enjoying the family and the sun. And I wanted to begin again with Grayson Rodriguez, who's dealing with his third ailment over 11 months. He remains sidelined. Brandon Hyde provided an update the other day saying, quote unquote, it's going to take a while. He will need a restart per Hyde. What does that mean, Doc, in layman's terms, a restart?
Well, it means you have to go back to day one of spring training. Grayson has swelling in his elbow. So the first thing to address is his medical condition. So the first step is he can't do anything till the swelling dissipates. So we don't exactly know where that is, but we'll see where that goes. Number one, you first have to decide why the elbow swelled. So we're guessing Grayson's young. He's not had elbow histories in the past. His ligament was okay as per the MRI. So we'll assume there's no structural issue. A veteran player could have a bone spur or a loose body, but they haven't mentioned that. And so I assume that's not the case. So he has some sort of overuse swelling. So first that has to go down with time, treatment, anti-inflammatories. Once that has gone down, then you have to go back to square one of short toss, long toss, throwing on flat ground, mixing in your spinning pitches. And then you have to go to get to the mound, and then you have to ramp up your velocity. And again, most of the time, particularly with hard throwers, you'll take 2-3 steps forward. One day you'll be a little sore, you'll back up a day. There's always some minor glitches in this process. As soon as they said he got a cortisone shot, I figured that was going to be a 4 to 8 week process to get actually into a game at a major league level. My guess is he'll throw a game or two at AAA. And again, there's a little bit of a wild card with Grayson, as the Orioles mentioned earlier in the process, that they tweaked his motion a little bit to avoid a lat strain. So the pitching staff has to decide if they want to go back to his original mechanics or they want to leave him with the modified mechanics. To me, that's more likely to be a 6 to 8 week process to be back on a mound, pitching in a game. But since there's no structural problem, I see no reason why he can't get all the way back there. It's just a matter of time. And just like with Gunnar, if the team's playing functionally well without him, they won't feel excessive pressure. If one of the other starters goes down, everything changes. As we know, we're not very deep in starting pitchers at the minor league level. So hopefully the starters in the lineup we have now will stay healthy.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. And let's hope we got another Tommy John injury and surgery over the offseason, but this is not a pitcher and not a throwing arm. Jorge Mateo, the Orioles really need him. They need his speed, they need his defense, and hope that back kind of picks up a little bit. What is the rehab? He played a game the other day on the left shoulder or left elbow of a player, especially a non-throwing arm. What's he expecting, and when's he going to get back on the field?
Well, as you mentioned, it's not his throwing elbow. So that's the biggest issue. When it's your throwing elbow, you have to get the elbow straight or to where it was pre-op. Most of these pitchers have a little what we call flexion contraction where they can't straighten it all the way. But that also happens to hard throwing infielders. But since you don't need to worry about that, all you need to focus on is the structural condition of his elbow, and the soft tissues have healed. His surgery, I think, was the last week of July. So it's a little early, but barring the imponderables of him rolling into somebody again, there's no reason to think his elbow shouldn't be fine. He might get a little bit tender from day to day, but again, even with Gunnar out, he's not the everyday shortstop. So I would think if his hitting is good and he's comfortable, he should not really have a lot of issues getting back to his role as an extra infielder. Great. And certainly he can still run, and that's a big factor.
How long do you think?
Not taking, Doc Bordy and I had been talking about the fact that we're not sure if Jorge Mateo has even taken a shot on that shoulder diving for a ball, right, Bordy?
Yeah, I mean that's what I heard in his last game. He hasn't even dove yet. So, and there are some tests, right, that he's got to go through. How about stealing head first and grabbing onto the base? I mean, it's going to take a lot of punishment along the way.
Of course, there are. I hate to use the word analytics, but there are tests that are done to confirm the stability there. But there's a mental aspect as well as a physical aspect. It's, I think, like football players getting hit the first time after knee surgery, and those are all imponderables. But given the fact he's not throwing with it, he should be good. If I was involved, which I'm not, I would probably have him run the bases with an elbow brace. I'd probably have him put a brace on that would give him some extra protection. Like you say, if he reaches with his arm. In today's world, fewer and fewer players seem to slide foot first and more seem to slide head first. So I probably would put him in a brace, but that would be a decision between the medical staff, and sometimes players, Mike, as you know, just don't like wearing extra stuff. But I would tell him to wear an elbow brace, certainly when he's running, to be extra safe.
Dr.
I'd
Michael,
also like to make a quick comment about our new Japanese pitcher. It does seem like most of the Japanese pitchers come here with a really good split-fingered pitch. And that always is an out pitch to me here if you throw it well. And for some reason, it seems like the Japanese pitchers are taught that probably a little more consistently than the American-trained pitchers, because they all seem to throw it. And that always seems to be a real deceptive pitch to hitters.
All right, Dr. Michael Jacobs, who is in Sarasota, will visit with the team, the GM, the manager, who knows, maybe even the owner. Thanks for the input. We'll see you next week, wherever you may be. Thanks to all our sponsors, including the newest, Catonsville Dental Care, where I go, Dr. Scott Balin. Thanks for the support, all the dentists over there.
Take a swing at a healthier mouth and a better-looking smile with my dental team at Catonsville Dental Care. Catonsville Dental Care is a winning team of caring dental professionals who treat you like family. You will love their clean, friendly office, where your comfort and care are their top priorities. Catonsville Dental Care has more than 2,000 five-star Google reviews and received many awards, such as Top Dentist and Top Workplace. Catonsville Dental Care accepts most insurances and offers convenient hours, before or after work, and some Saturdays, too. Mention the Jerry Special for your $149 new patient visit, or receive $500 off your Invisalign treatment. So get off the bench. Call Catonsville Dental Care today.
There are a lot of myths out there about how the Maryland lottery works. Playing the lottery responsibly means knowing what's true and what's not. The facts are, all games have similar odds. You should never try to recover losses by taking more risks. And you shouldn't play the lottery when you're feeling stressed. But the biggest fact is, you should always play responsibly. Learn more facts and myths at mdlottery.com, and please play responsibly.
At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com. The Bmore Baseball Podcast welcomes Relief Shop. Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu, located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week. Only at Relief Shop. It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer, or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone, exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955, proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles. Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
Love the culture of Charm City? The Baltimore Chamber Orchestra is performing 2 extraordinary concerts at Goucher College on Sunday, March 9th and Sunday, May 11th. Picture it. The strings strike the first chord like a leadoff hitter, setting the concert's tone, followed by colorful winds, powerful brass and explosive percussion, like a crowd roaring to their feet during a home run. Discover Baltimore's Second Orchestra and experience the unforgettable magic of classically captivating live music. Get your tickets now at thebco.org.
Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for Bet Parks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. At Heller Coates, we ensure peace of mind. Our mission, to educate, design, and protect, ensuring that you get the right insurance at the right price. Whether it's home and auto, life, disability, long-term care, or employee benefits, our deep understanding of personal and business life cycles allows us to tailor solutions just for you. We specialize in strategic insurance planning for those who value protection. Ready to take the next step? Get in touch for a no-obligation 360 policy review at insurance@hellercoates.com.
Thanks to senior executive producer Chip Franklin for putting this latest episode together. Bordy, you may not know this. Chip used to deliver newspapers, but then he forgot how to ride his bike.
Oh, so funny, I forgot to laugh.
Go figure. Until next week, be real, be kind, and make sure to be back for another episode of the Bmore Baseball Podcast. Have a great week.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.